Good morning, gang. Happy Tuesday morning. It's one of those things here that just drives me absolutely insane. And it's the can't think past the tip of your nose. And it's not something that's just limited to liberals. Okay, there's plenty of conservatives the same way. Big talk in the last few days, well, last couple of weeks, I guess, if you will, about the health of Washington. Okay. Now, you all know as well as I do, I don't care how much Botox, how much exercise, how much eating clean, doing whatever you do. The fact remains you can't stop time. You are going to continue to get older. Okay? Most of you know just like I do. We ain't as fast as we were when we were 20. We can't do as much. Okay? But the old saying comes with age comes wisdom, which is true. Okay. I mean, I'd love to go back to be 20 years old, but know what I know now. Until somebody invents time travel or John DeLorean makes a new car, it ain't happening. You look at Washington, and late last week, John James, who is senator from Michigan, has come, or representative, I believe, has come up, yeah, representative, has come up with a bill for an age limit on serving in the federal government, and he wants it to be 75. Now, I'm not going to completely disagree, but I am going to disagree. Because you take a look at what's going on. I don't have to tell you anything about Joe Biden, okay? I mean, Biden's around, 82 years old or something thereabout. I mean, he can't even lift his feet when he walks. He gets lost. He lies about everything. I mean, yesterday it was his speech in Alaska. Yes, first president ever not to be at Washington or Shanksville or the Pentagon on 9/11. That's how much he respects the day. But to come up and lie and say, I remember on September 12th when I was there in front of the trade centers, except congressional record shows that he was in Congress all day for special meetings and votes and etc. He actually went on September 20th, but never let the facts get in the way of a Joe Biden story. We all know Joe was not cognitively there. Okay, but let's take a look at some other ones. We take a look at Mitch McConnell. Okay, what, a couple of strokes? We all know it. Just Washington won't admit it here in the last month or so. I mean, you don't stand up on a podium and completely freeze. I mean, the guy's been giving speeches for 50 years. I don't think he got tongue-tied. Okay. The classic one right now is Dianne Feinstein. I mean, this is hilarious because she's still sitting in the Senate. Okay. She won't resign. Gavin Newsom has said that he's not going to replace her. He's not going to appoint somebody to replace her. He's going to let her ride it out until she's done and then just appoint a placeholder. But I want to give you Dianne Feinstein, one of 100 senators we have, making decisions for how 340 million people live their lives, right? Except for her own personal business, Dianne Feinstein's daughter has power of attorney to handle all her legal affairs. So the woman isn't competent to handle her own personal affairs, but yet she's still sitting in the U.S. Senate making decisions on how you or I live. We can look at Grace Napolitano. We can look at Chuck Schumer. We can look at Nancy Pelosi. Okay, there's a whole boatload of lawmakers in Washington who are past their prime. And no, I'm not trying to quote Don Lemon here, okay? But so the answer that John James came up with is to put an age limit on serving as a politician, okay? 75 years old. Well, the caveat to that one is that would also remove Trump, okay? Because Trump is 77 or 78, if I'm not mistaken, okay? So he wouldn't be able to serve. So what would that leave? Well, we have to have younger people. Great. So this is where I don't think they think. It's not age limits we need. It's cognitive limits that we need. You need to pass a mental test, if you will, sort of the entire American voters, but there should be an IQ test to vote, personally, I think, because at that point you'd never have another Democrat win an election ever. But the problem that you run into is, what are they talking about? Gee, we need a whole lot more AOCs or Cori Bushes, a bunch more millennials. This is the problem. I understand that all these people are saying, we have all the experience. You got all the experience. You ain't exactly done the greatest of jobs in the last 20 some odd years, okay? I mean, we're going through our second financial meltdown in 15 years. I wouldn't say your track record is good. All that wisdom you've gained has not necessarily given me a warm, fuzzy feeling, okay? Because you're not doing a good job, but yet you keep getting reelected. Well, there's a good reason why, okay? And that's because the fundraising, if you will, for incumbents is a lot easier than for a challenger, because Washington will pay, and McConnell runs that money. I'm going to give you the money to get reelected, or I'm not going to give you money to get reelected. You look at Wyoming, or Wyoming specifically. McConnell didn't want to give Harriet Hageman any money, to unseat Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney just put her foot in her mouth so far that she couldn't get elected city dog catcher. But this is the problem. They've got a stranglehold on everything. And the rules that are being put out to prevent them to do this aren't doing any good. Why won't they ever come up with term limits as an idea? Okay. And as well as I do, every politician runs and says, oh, I'm for term limits. I'm for term limits. And then they get in Washington and you never hear about it again. Why? Because none of them are going to vote themselves out of a job. I mean, you look at the normal person retires at age 65 or 67, I think is now the official retirement age. AOC got in Congress when she was 29. Okay? Do the math. If she works till age 70 or age 67, okay, she'll have spent almost 40 years in Congress. It's a pretty good gig if you can get it. Hell, in 5 years, she went from a net worth of, I can't afford an apartment, to worth over $2 million, okay, on a $155,000 salary, mind you. Okay. I want to know how that one goes. When you can make $750,000, but somehow you're now worth over $2 million. I guess you had no expenses whatsoever, and you were studying at the Nancy Pelosi School of Stock Market Trading. But yeah. So why don't we put term limits into play? Well, they won't do that because that would be voting them out of their cushy job. And so now what we have is the world's most prestigious nursing home. Because when you've got people who can't stay awake at state dinners, okay, or can't handle their own legal affairs, can't stand on a podium and make a speech, okay, confuse Iraq and Afghanistan, or confuse Ukraine and Iraq, okay, this is the problem we have. And this is why I keep saying we need to get more involved. You notice how it goes from, we skip a generation in here in politics, and it drives me absolutely insane, because we've gone from a whole bunch of baby boomers, no offense to the baby boomers, okay, to a whole bunch of millennials that everybody says need to be in politics. We start putting a whole bunch of millennials in politics, guys. Start getting your red clothes with a hammer and sickle out on them, okay? We're skipping Generation X, my generation. the rebel generation, the outspoken generation who doesn't put up with shit, never did, never has, never will. Where are all the Gen X politicians? Let's put it this way, where are the Gen X politicians with a backbone? Those are the ones I want to see. I want to see the ones who were death to torpedoes, screw the man, that group, not the millennials in their climate change and stop fossil fuels and all this sort of stuff. We skipped probably the only generation that can save this country, because the two generations that we have running it right now have run it into the ground. And God help us if we wind up with a bunch more AOCs for the next 40 years. Pinball out.